So, coming to the first introductory class to political thought. As discussed in the orientation session. So I said I'll start with the Western political thought. Okay, right? Western political thought, say ancient, medieval, and modern thinkers. And the syllabus decode I talked about them. But before going to Plato, so I want to give a feel about what the political thought looks like. Say in the current context, if the questions மொத்தமா ஹோலிஸ்டிக்கா கேட்டு the futures of Greek political thought வருது, and also a lot of comparison between Indian political thought and Greek political thought or Western political thought. So it demands a comprehensive understanding of what the political thought is. Say political science is all about state, but political thought, say any subject has its own theory. And the theory வளர்க்கறதுக்கு so ஒரு எந்த சப்ஜெக்ட் ஸ்டாட்டிக் கிடையாது, டைனமிக்கா வளர்ந்துகிட்டே வரும் over the period of time. அப்படி பார்க்கும்போது political science is an age old science, so where it belongs to the Greek times. அப்ப இருந்தே தியரி வளர்ந்துகிட்டே இருக்கு. Still it is a contemporary and evergreen subject. இப்ப இந்த தியரி வளர்ந்ததுக்கு one of the reason is that political thought. So ஒரு காலத்துல political science அப்படின்னாலே it is about study of political thought. So I want to give you a proper introduction before going to Plato. I start with what is political thought. So political thought now, so what do you think? What is the idea you get? No, we have seen in orientation. Okay, right? So what is the idea you get in political thought? Okay, what's thought? Or thought na solralla. Think, thought. So what do you mean by thought? Or idea, opinion about something. Okay, right? So where assumption. The assumption இருக்கலாம், actual இருக்கலாம், or it is subjective or objective. To put it simply, any thought is a reflection on something. Your thought is a reflection on something. You think about this, right? What makes you to think about something? Yeah. புரியல. Question arise ஆகலாம். That is the concern for the particular thing. So, as you said, you ask a question. Okay, why? You may ask a question, why? அப்ப இங்க the reflections எது மேல இருக்க போகுது? I said it's a political thought. அப்ப இங்க reflections on the state. That is what constitutes a political thought is. It's nothing but reflections on the state. Okay. State பத்தி நம்ம ஏன் reflect பண்ணணும்? So why do we need to think about state? Why? Organized structure. Okay. People to, இப்ப நான் உங்ககிட்ட கேட்கிறேன், what do you think about the present India? India பத்தி உங்க opinion, thought என்னன்னு சொல்லுங்க. Growing, developing. Okay. So present continuous. Okay. So do you need India to change? Okay. So it has its own socio-economic problems. Can we say so? Okay. Does India, is India a perfect state? Okay. Neither it is an imperfect state, nor it is a perfect state, neither it is a imperfect state, right? So, what do you seek in this India? என்ன வேணும் உங்களுக்கு? இல்ல இந்தியா எப்படி இருக்கணும்? Do you have a vision of India, or do you have a dream about India? What do you say? Health, wealth, and employment. So in India, my dreams, right? So where you put health, wealth, and employment. A state which gives. Okay. So presently you are on the opinion that the state is not providing enough. Can you say so? For example, health. Can we say India has failed, or whether India needs more attention on health? Okay. If it's a reflection on you. So what the girls say? Not only the man live here, even women live here. Okay. So what? Huh? Okay. So now I asked a question, right? So what is the reflection on India? And he said, right? So he asked something from India, right? So about how India should be. This is how he said. I asked you, you said, right? It is not a one-way process, it is a two-way process. So it should be reciprocal. You talked about the situation of reciprocity. Okay, now I put a question, right? Why you need India? Why do you need India? Identity. So you're happy to be an Indian. Okay. Is there anything else apart from that? Hmm. Hmm. Yes. Uh, we are the Indians. We who make India, we who made it. The people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a blah blah. Okay, right? So we need India. Okay, right? So what is it? Uh, okay. So how India should be? You have a dream, and why India? Right? So maybe it protects you, or it gives you an identity, or it serves certain function. Therefore, everyone has a reflection upon the state. And similarly, so is political thought. It's a reflection on this state. By whom? The people who think are known by the name thinkers. And the subject constitutes the political thought. So we have both Western political thought as well as the Indian political thought. Therefore, the political thought is nothing but reflection of the thinkers on the state. Okay. And the aspects of what? How, what, why, where, when, right? So there's so many different aspects of state. That is what, right? So the idea of state is. Now, political thought is going to ask questions. You said we are going to ask questions. What sort of questions are going to ask us? What are the questions you put forward? Okay. If India is going to be a this much of state, or a perfect state, or an ideal state, or a state of my dreams, right? It should come with certain features. In the future, self-reliance. Okay. Then the state should be self-reliant. Okay. Do you want democracy? Yes. Do you want democracy? Do you want rights? Yes, we need rights. Okay. And when you say justice, first of all, whether you have this or that, right? You should have justice. Okay. Secular state or secularism, security. Then what else? Social. Say, not going to reproduce a preamble. What I say is that, right? Say, what are ideas you want from the state, or what are the political thoughts, reflections on the state? It reflected on so many aspects of the state. The point I'm trying to make here is that, right? Political thought, the subject matter of political thought is that, right? So it tried to reflect upon so many political phenomena and different aspects of state. Okay, right? இப்போ different aspect சொல்லும்போது I say a democracy of my choice. I say India is not a perfect democracy. Do you agree that? Why? Not everyone is equal. We have legal equality and political equality, but we don't have socio-economic equality. This is my point of view. What do you say? Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So different aspects of representation. A democracy should be a representative democracy. You're not happy with this democracy. Okay. Then it represents your mindset that, right? So you are critical about the functioning of democracy in India. And that is the function of philosophy. So therefore, here, every political thought is a philosophical quest for a better state. Ultimately, it can be reduced to the philosophical quest for a better state. So Plato's ideal state. Okay, Marx stateless society. Every thinker, right? So represents the spirit of their time. A political thought represents the spirit of its time. Had you were born in the pre-independent India, what is the reflection on state? So what would your idea would be? Either you will be nationalist, okay, right? You'll be joining the national movement, or you'll be siding the Britishers, right? So either you will be in the revolutionary trend, or you'll be in the moderate trend. Either you will be in the right, so secular trend, or in the this rightist trend, whatever thing. So your idea of state would have been different, right? Since we are born in the post-independent India, and that too, right? So in this contemporary 2000s, right? So millions, right? Our idea of state is different. Maybe my forefathers had a different idea of state. Every thought represents the spirit of its time. Every thought represents the spirit of its time because it is philosophical. Since it is philosophical, it involves evaluative statements or judgments. It is evaluative. It is going to determine the standards of right and wrong. So it is not actually objective. It's not actually factual. Right? So what appeals to me? Therefore, it is my personal choice and opinion, or my personal coloration is going to be there, which involves evaluative statements. If it is evaluative, then the function of this philosophy or political thought is critical function of what is right and wrong. Political philosophy or this political thought, right, has a critical function of evaluating the standards of right and wrong. This is what the political thought is. And every political thought is a reflection of its time or represents the spirit of its time. Had Marx born in ancient world, his idea of state would have been different. Had Plato born in the modern world, his idea of state would have been different. Every political thinker is a product of his time, and the thought is a product of its time. That's it. Okay, right? The political thought is what? Political thought is a product of its time. This is what a political thought is. Okay, right? Now, the political thought. Definitely, nothing comes from vacuum. Everything has a beginning. So the political thought too should have a beginning. So in our syllabus, we have Western political thought as well as Indian political thought. So there's a beginning for Indian political thought as well as beginning for this Western political thought. But since political science is a Western science, it's actually developed in the West. We have Arthashastra, okay, right? But we never call this Arthashastra as a pure political treatise. We call this an art of statecraft. Our version of politics is holistic. We do not separate politics from other aspects. Whereas the Western notion is always separate. Say you look at the thing, the father of all the subjects come from either Greek or Roman background. Even the terminologies come from Latin background. So the father of political science, who is it? It is Aristotle. The father of history, Herodotus. The father of geography, Ptolemy. The father of biology, same Aristotle. Aristotle has the distinction of becoming the father of political science as well as the father of biology. So therefore, the Greeks had a classified knowledge and they were able to have a separate discipline called political science. Political science has grown from the West, okay, right? And we have our own version of political theory. So historically speaking, how this political thought has been evolved. So that brings us to the next topic, the evolution of political thought. First thing we answered is what is political thought. Now it is about the evolution of political thought. Okay, right? So what is political thought? Are you clear? Online, are you clear? Anything to be clarified?
No, sir.
Oh, if evolution, how the political thought might have been evolved. So I said it is a continuously growing subject where we can view it in the historical context. When you speak about history, there are three eras of history. What is it? Ancient, medieval, as well as modern. On what basis we divide this into ancient, medieval, and modern? Every era has its own unique characteristics. Otherwise, not pretty good. What are the characteristics? Socio-political as well as economical conditions, which are unique to the particular era. So, adanalada we separate history into three eras. Okay, right? So, therefore, here too, the historical context, we have ancient political thought, medieval political thought, and modern political thought. This is how the political thought has evolved. So, how can we say so? So, that is a way or approach to study anything. I ask you, right? So, what is your approach towards the civil service preparation? What is your approach? Any approach involves a method. The approach is a right, so or a holistic term. Method is a particular term, right? What is your methodology? Consistent method. Okay. And what is your approach? It is rational or emotional? Whether your approach is rational or emotional. The service வாங்கினா செத்து போயிடுவானா அப்படி யாரும் நினைக்கிறது கிடையாது நினைச்சிருந்தா நீங்க படிச்சிருப்பீங்க okay right so what is it I'm saying it is rational we weigh the pros and cons okay so what I can do is how much time I can put here right so whether this subject is right so apt to me even you decide a political science based upon what your own calculations there are empty number of options available but still going for PSIR means that you have a particular attachment towards subject based on a personal calculation so I believe that it is a rational choice. Okay, right? Approach should be rational in the modern context. But the third thing, so where the approaches differed according to individual as well as the time. Any period has its own set of unique characteristics. Where I say ancient period was a period of reason and religion. I would say it is a period of reason as well as religion. What is reason? Rational. 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. Even 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. Right? You only change the numbers, right? But still, the result is the same. It is logic. Okay, right? And for answers, we can the things we can find answers. It is reasonable. But things beyond which you cannot find any answers. Answer தெரியல என்ன பண்ணலாம் there are certain things which are beyond your apprehension. Reason. For example, Plato's theory of forms. There's a thing. Plato's theory of form. We'll see in Plato. Okay, right? And Plato says that this theory is intelligible only to the intelligent persons. What is that? This theory is intelligible only to the intelligent person. Are you intelligent? Okay, okay. So I am intelligent. This is what. Okay, right? So here I say that if for the rational things, yes, you can go by sense experience. Seeing is believing. Beyond reason, right? Say this is the blackboard here. Okay, right? But I can change it into whiteboard also. I can change it to any color, right? So now, what is true? Blackboard is true or other thing is true? Right now, blackboard is true, existential. Okay, right? Okay. Now the class is over after 8. They are gone. The place is dark, right? Do you think that the blackboard exists here? Yes, you believe. Okay, right? Why you believe? Because previously your mind is being accustomed to the fact that this setup is here, right? So therefore, even in the dark, we are able to see. Whereas previously, if you don't see it, okay, your first time reduced to the dark, right? And I ask you, what is that? What will you say? You can't see things. You say the room is dark. Does that mean that the things are not here? A classroom should have chairs, right? So a podium as well as a board. This is a common sense. Okay, right? So the commonsensical observations are there. But beyond that, so there are certain things which you cannot apprehend. then where will you look? That is called divine or spiritual. In ancient period, right? So for the things which are beyond our apprehension, the thinkers will look to religion. Plato and Aristotle are not atheistic. They believed in God. Even our ancient philosophy. Artha Shastra may be secular philosophy, but doesn't mean that Kautilya doesn't believe in God. He believed in God. Dharma Shastra is a holistic philosophy which is sanctioned by divinity, they say. Okay, right? So even Buddhism is a what? Religious philosophy. Buddhism denies the existence of God, but still Buddhism is a religion. So therefore here, the ancient period is about reason and religion. What is the medieval period? It is entirely about religion, where there is no scope for reason. So this is the period of dark ages. Actually, India was better this dark ages. We don't have a dark age in India, except for the Nadir Shah's invasion, which happens in the 18th century, which devastated Delhi, and for some time it's thrown the political authority out. Also, most of the time, right, despite the wars, India was mostly stable, and we never had a dark age. Whereas the West had a dark age of nearly 2 to 3 centuries. Why? Because of crusades, right? So what is crusade? The war between Christianity and Islam. So why they fought over Christianity and Islam? Because they didn't apply the reason. Okay, what they applied, what they believed on? Religion. And that too, superiority of their own religion. Islam says, right, Inshallah, there is no one except Allah. There is only one religion, and that is one religion is Islam, and the one God is Allah. What Christianity says? The Holy Soul, the Holy Spirit, Father, it is the only God, right? And Christianity is the only religion. And both want to say that they are right. What will happen? They fight, right? And what Jesus' message was to spread love. But what they did, they spread hatred. That's why Gandhi says, right? I love Jesus, but not the Christians. I love Christ, but not the Christians, because they are so unlike the Christ. Gandhi. Can we say Gandhi comes from RSS background? So Gandhi is in Sanghi. So that is the context. Now I see. Okay, right? So now I say that the medieval period is dominated by religion. So I'll explain the futures, right? So in due course. So that means it is completely based on faith or belief. Can your faith or belief be proved? What do you say? It can evolve. Okay. Do you believe in God? Yes. Do you prove it? Can you prove it? No. Don't you believe in God? I say no. Can you prove it? Say you can neither prove the existence of God nor disprove the absence of God. Okay, right? That's why it's called faith. That's why it's called belief. Okay, the belief is based on what? The reason is also something might be there, like the faith or belief in scriptures. What is a scripture? Religious text, Bible, Quran, right? So Adi Granth and others. For Sikhs, Adi Granth is the holy thing. So God who is God? The word of God, Adi Granth. Okay, right? For the Christians, the Bible is the word of God. For the Muhammadans, it is Quran, the word of God. Okay, right? Similarly, for the Hindus, for certain section of Hindus, the Bhagavad Gita was the word of God. Okay, every religion has its own belief and faith. So adapadi nadakapom. Upon the definition of state, say for example, the Islamic countries followed the Sharia. Okay, right? And the Catholic, the Christian countries followed the decrees of Pope from the Roman, that is the Vatican. So the Mary, it is medieval, it's about religion. Okay. Then came the modern period, the period of Renaissance. So where it's pure reason. No religion at all. It is pure reason. Age of enlightenment or scientific period, we call it. So the modern period has given something new. Not only, it's not reason or religion, it is purely reason, and there is no scope for religion. So it is a secular thought. It is purely a secular thought. A breakaway tradition from the medieval thinking. Okay, right? இப்போ இந்த மூணு கான்டெக்ட்லையும் படிக்கிறது the approaches to political thought. So there are I'll explain. There is early modern thought as well as the modern thought, and we have contemporary thought. Okay, right? Just for the categorical context, I am explaining. So, Agada, we'll talk about Machiavelli. So now we have approaches. The study of political thought. How can we study political thought? Say, if we ask a political science student some 100 years before, they would say political science is a study of political thought. And political science is the study of the history of political thought. And what do you call as theory? Theory is nothing but political thought. So because some people believe it. But now, if you ask you, right, so ask me, what is political theory? I said it is a collection of concepts, okay, right, which involves ideologies, concepts, as well as thought. Thought is a part of political science, right? Thought as self is not political science. But previously they believed that, right? So political science is entirely political thought. Every historical this thing comes with there are approaches where the traditional approaches. The traditional approaches study of political thought. Say these approaches are selective in the sense, right? So after studying the thinkers, so there are 9 thinkers. After studying it, if I ask you which thinkers, right, appeals you the most, so you will come with an answer. But even before going to that, right? So just by seeing the name, right, you might have some connection, right? So who is the most inspiring thinker for you? Either Indian or Western, whoever it is, right? Who is the most inspiring thinker? உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்ச thinker சொல்லுங்க. M.N. Roy. Okay. So you've gone for an odd choice of radical humanism. Okay, right? That's your ideological lineation that you are towards humanism. Okay. Anyone else? Arambandho. So you are more conservative. Okay, right? So you're inclined toward cultural nationalism. Okay. Then anyone? Syllabus பார்த்துட்டோம்ல. Okay. தெரிஞ்ச பேரை சொல்லுங்க. Then சரி நானே சொல்றேன். Okay. So இந்த பேர் பிடிக்குதோ சொல்லுங்க. So like Hobbes, Thomas Hobbes, Hannah Arendt, right? So civic republicanism. Why civic republicanism? Because, right, so he has, right, so seen what totalitarianism is. Only female thinker. So you try to be a participant democracy. Okay, right? So you try to be more open. There are. Karl Marx yarume illaya? Because Karl Marx is out of the context. In this age of globalization, there is no need for Karl Marx. Okay, right? But Karl Marx, we can say they're a leftist. And if you're a, right, so person who support Locke, right, so Rousseau or Hobbes, you're a liberal. So therefore, these ideological connotations, right, so are subjective based on a person's perspective. Where the traditional approaches are normative in scope, or we can say value-based. You prefix a thinker. You like this thinker, a thought, right? And you try to justify it. Okay, right? Not because of objectivity, but because of your subjectivity, you are going to justify. So I say normative, value-based. This approach is traditional approach, which is value-based. Okay, value-based, you are likening towards a particular subject or particular thought. You like Hannah Arendt. One of the flaws of Hannah Arendt's thought, right? So if after going through Hannah Arendt, I find some fault in that theory. Do you accept that? If you're a strong supporter, you try to justify that. Okay, right? That is the problem with the Marxists. Why Marxists were out of touch? Why it has become irrelevant? The dogmatism in Marxism is the reason for its failure. It is not adaptable. Okay, right? Adaptability is a sign of change. It never adapts. Okay, right? Therefore, traditional approaches are normative. Then the modern approaches. Of course, there is a scope of first unit. The traditional as well as modern approach study of political theory. We'll see detailed there. Now, the modern approaches. The modern means it is reason. The age of reason. But it is not normative. Here it is empirical. Scientific. You study a thinker as they are, not as we are. We study them as they are and find what is right and what is wrong. you cannot completely, right, so just neglect Marx. Marx, the historical analysis of Marx is just a scientific theory as well as a spellbound theory. Of course, right, it gives a lot of insights in the development of history. For example, let me explain history in a Marxian perspective. That will give you a new idea. So, the history of Indian national movement. So, what do you, or how do you see the history of Indian national movement? Revolutionary. என்ன revolution? எதுக்கு சண்டை போட்டோம்? Whether it is political, social, economic, or whole. All. So that's what we say. Okay, right? Do you think that the British are really, right, so economically stunted us, politically stunted us, and socially stunted us? Stunting. Do you think so? Or exploitation? So don't you think that previously not economically exploited, whether you were free under the Mughals, whether you are, right, enjoying liberty under the previous rulers, whether you are all equal in the Indian society, then how come you blame the Britishers? Okay, the economy circulated inside our country, but still there remain inequality. Not everyone is rich, right? Maybe the condition of India was better than the European nations. So one historical fact is that medieval India was richer than medieval Europe. Medieval Europe is a filthy garbage. Okay, they do not never had a sense of, right, so hygiene. They never had, right, so standard of life. It's dirt and filth. Whereas Indian had a standard of life in the medieval period, but declined due to the coming of British, as you said, right? So economic stunting. That's the problem here. So we say exploitation, where we are going for a materialistic interpretation of history. Say, as long as the Britishers politically occupied us, politically colonized us, there was no, right, so revolution. So there was simply discontentment among whom? The rulers, because they lost their power. It is power struggle. This happened even during the time of Alexander's invasion as well as the Mohammedan invasion. It's simply change of guard. Okay, it never accepted this impacted the common man. Whereas here, the British rule has impacted the common man. Every, as you said, the economy was circulated inside. And we never heard about the term called unemployment, because every Indian was born with a job, though it's a traditional job. Though it's according to their Varna, they are born here. We never heard about poverty. We never heard about famine. The word famine is new to India and it came only at the coming of British. Okay. Ipo, right? So political exploitation, revolution kondu varala, only a class of people came. Social exploitation, only the conservatives fought against the British. Now economic exploitation, the commoners jumped into the revolution. So it became a mass movement. Now I give you a materialistic interpretation of history. It's given by Marx. Okay, right? Marxism can be used as a tool of analysis. Therefore, I say, yes, there is objectiveness in political theory. You can study this political thought in an empirical or a scientific way. It need not be always be emotional. So we can also be rational. So this is the modern approach. Okay. Then there are contemporary approach. Okay. We never lived in the times either ancient, medieval, or modern. So through the writings, now what happens? So we are having this thing. We are studying Tirukural, you know. So what's the meaning of Tirukural? What the Tirukural gives us? It talks about many chapters and other things. And it is a life message as well as a social message. Now, this political thought has to be understood in the particular context. So not according to whims and fancies. So though we can study empirical things, but still, why? We ask the question, why? Right? Every thought can be understood in the particular context. Therefore, these contemporary approaches are contextual. They study the context in which the political thought evolved and come with the idea that this theory represents a particular context. If capitalism was not there, then definitely socialism would not be there. Socialism is an antithesis of capitalism. There is nothing good or bad about any political theory. Everything is contextual. For example, there is a approach in the contemporary thing we call as postmodernism. The postmodernist or deconstructivist approach, which tries to deconstruct the traditional as well as modern approaches. There are no established truths. Okay, right? Everything is contextual. So this is what this approach is. Okay. For political thought, there is no single approach to understand that. As a student of political science, we are going to apply all this. The question will be, right? So contextual sometimes, right? So it will be empirical or it will be subject. So we should be ready for the three format. Therefore, a holistic understanding of this political thinkers or political thought so will help us in writing. In the approach, traditional, modern as well as contemporary. Right? These are the approaches to the political thought. Then we see, right, how the political thought evolved. The evolution of political thought. Right. So we have said ancient, medieval, and modern. The conditions, right? So in which this thought evolved. Not only West, let us take India also. Okay, right? Ancient thought. The Greek thought. So why a political thought evolved in the Greece? Why the Greeks are the storehouse of knowledge and birthhouse of the political science. Heard about many names like Socrates, Plato, right? So Aristotle, and there are many people, Epicurus, so Thucydides. There are many thinkers, empty number of thinkers in Greek philosophy, rich in, right? So the political thought, social thought, every thought, ancient Greek. Why do you think that the thought has came or evolved? Go back to the Greek society. So, but Greece, city states. So there is variety of, right? So political labs or political experiment there. So how, Greece, Athens, Sparta, Creta. So there are so many. Have you seen the film 300? So where the city states are fighting against one another. So where some states are democratic, some states are theocratic, some states are republican, some states are monarchical. Say Alexander come from a republican state, but still, so he tried to be a monarch who want to rule the world. There are different forms of government and different ideas which are there. Therefore, it is a place where rich intellectual ferment happens. That has given to the Greek political thought. Okay, right? What is it? Quality of Greek city states. Therefore, the political thought evolved from Greek. Then you may ask, why not the other political thought? Even Romans, Cicero, the father of law. So Romans were the next best after the Greek. Their system of administration. They were there. Then the Chinese. So they have their own thought. You might have heard about Confucius. The Chinese, right? So till the communist revolution, China was, right? So ruled by two C's. One is Confucianism, other is cannabis. What is cannabis? Marijuana, ganja. Okay, right? Confucius and ganja are the two watchwords of this Chinese till 1949. I talk about before the communist revolution. So that was the impact of this Confucianism. So you might have heard about Sun Tzu, the art of war. The Chinese, right? So political thinker. Innikime realist, it's a great work. It was that. Okay, Chinese. Then, of course, we Indians. The greatest masterpiece now it is Arthashastra. Arthashastra is about what? Statecraft. Confucianism. It's about statecraft. What is statecraft? Art of governance. So it's a pure political treatise where it is about art of governance. You know, anyone who studied ancient India might know it is Kautilya or Chanakya who gave this thing. So, how a state machinery can be, well, it's an advice to the ruler. Similarly, Dharma, Dharma Shastra by Manu, then Buddhism or Buddhist thought given by Buddha, the code of conduct for the Indians and how to run the state. The state in ancient one thing is about, right? The ancient thought is they are so particular about one thing. What they ask for. Social order. One connecting feature about the ancient political thought is about they longed for social order, which is the ideal or best social order to keep the state united, or we can call as harmony, social harmony. They stressed, right? So the importance of harmony. Wars. There was no settlement, chaos. There was no peace. Therefore, badly we are in need of peace, and that has led to the quest for political theory, which is the ideal social order or political order or harmony, or ideal political order, which right so can guarantee harmony. Let us take for example, Dharma Shastra, the Indian political thought. Dharma Shastra sanctions Varna Shastra or Varnashrama Dharma. What is Varnashrama Dharma? It is a system of social arrangement where hierarchical arrangement of four Varnas, Chaturu Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. All are not equal. Okay, right? So each according to their worth, not equal according to their worth. And a Brahmana carries more worth than a Shudra. So this is what the arrangement is. Okay, right? If anyone is trying to jump this arrangement, there will be social disharmony. Therefore, Rajniti, okay, right? Or justice is a king should maintain this harmony by maintaining the Varna system. Okay, right? Inequality is sanctioned because it's essential for maintaining the social harmony. All the ancient thought, even the Romans, so they have different categories. Even the Greeks, citizenship, the concept of citizenship, that is exclusive citizenship. It is not inclusive. So they won't give citizenship for women. They won't treat the slaves equally. They won't treat the outsiders equally. So they will not treat the children equally. The old people are different. Therefore, there are categorization. Every ancient society is prone to social arrangement in such a way there are so highs and lows, right? So our people who are special and people who are so common. Okay. Yeah, because the stress is on social order and harmony. So this is how the ancient thought has evolved. Okay, right? When you say contextual, the need was stability. War what can be an ideal arrangement? An order in which someone can bring this order by means of a social order. In the harmony, they asked for best form of government, best form of government, or best form of polity, which will be the ideal polity for maintaining the harmony. For Plato, he talks about philosophy. For Aristotle, he talked about polity. Okay, right? So, over thinker they have their own preferences based on their personal experiences. Okay, right? But the purpose is to have a harmonious life. So, harmonious life can be equated with good life. Harmonious life can be equated with good life. What is good for the individual? What is good for the society? Therefore, if we are going to say good and bad, we are going to go for evaluation. In the evaluation, what is good and what is bad? The universal standards go. What is right can be good. What is wrong can be bad. Good is right and bad is wrong. Ethical and moral politics. We go for ethical and moral politics. So, morals or ethics as the base of the politics. Ethics as the base of the politics. So you cannot, right? So violate this ethics. Every polity or every state is going to be judged by the standards of ethics. If the state doesn't meet the standards, then it's an unethical state, or we call it as a bad state or a perverted state. So ethics as the base of politics. Ethics cannot be separated from politics. Moral conduct of state. You recall the Indian philosophy. Okay, right? Dharma Shastra is the only realistic philosophy because it talks about realism, situational ethics. But overall, it emphasized the concept of dharma. Okay, it never supported adharma. It only gave advice to the ruler to preserve dharma. And you go for, right? So, our Dharma Shastra, it's all about dharma. Even Buddhism is about Buddhist dharma, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Okay, come to Greek philosophy. Socrates. Okay, virtue is knowledge. Virtuous. You need to be virtuous. Virtue is what? The greatest thing which every society should long for. So, virtue is nothing but something good for all of ethics. Plato stood for the moral and ethical state. Aristotle said, you cannot live without a state because state is the highest institution and it is also a moral institution which can bring you or give you ultimate good. So now we can see that, right? So ethics as the base of politics. Yeah, ethics because the prevailing situation. Therefore, moral politics was advocated. This is the context in which the ancient thought evolved, and we have to understand this ancient thought. Okay, right? Oh, the next thing. After this came the medieval thought. And they talked about justice, democracy, state, republicanism, everything was talked about that. இப்போ இங்க வரும்போது medieval thought என்ன? So here actually medievalism, early medievalism and later medievalism. There are two aspects here. Early medievalism was stagnant. It was stagnant. Why? Because it is being characterized by certain features. இங்க என்ன அப்படிங்கும்போது the growth of religion. You look at the Greek thought, Plato, Aristotle, இவங்கெல்லாம் before Christ. Okay, even the Indian political thought is before Christ. So where Christ was yet to come. So there was no Christianity. I'm not blaming Christianity for all the downfall, but I'm talking about the scope of religion. So here, there was always scope for reason. But once religion came, what is the purpose of religion? What is the purpose? Well, religion will give meaning. Fear of God. Fear of God. Okay, right? So, when you invent fear, you can invent God. So, God was invented. Okay, right? When God was invented and religion was invented and the scriptures were written, so their code of conduct. Right? They were brought here to discipline the mankind. Religion எடுத்து பாருங்க என்ன சொல்லும் அது 10 commandments, do's and don'ts. It never, right, so said do's. It always says do's and don'ts. Okay, right? You come to even in the Indian religion, what is it? Don't do this. Things of taboo. Don't do that. Okay. Then come to Islam, what it says? Haram. Okay. These things are haram. Don't do it. Religion என்ன பண்ணுது? It instills fear, moral fear, by making us believe in heaven and hell. இப்ப இங்கன்னா பயப்பட மாட்டீங்க நீங்க. So seeing is believing. We are made to believe in heaven and hell. What do you say? You believe in afterlife. ஐயோ நீங்க தப்பு பண்ணா you will be punished in afterlife. ஜன்னத்துல போய் நம்மள சவுகால் அடிப்பாங்க. Okay. If you have done good, So 72 virgins will be waiting for in the heaven. செத்து போனவனுக்கு எதியா virgin. Okay, right? Then in heaven, in Christianity, so God will என்ன பண்ணுவாரு, right? Make you the right, so rule the heaven. இங்க போனா என்ன, சொர்க்கம். குபேரா will be there. காமதேனு will be there. Right? So லிட்டர் கணக்குல பால் குடிக்கலாம் நீங்க. So எப்பயுமே ஹாப்பியா இருக்கலாம். So lived ever after happily. So and that ever after happily comes after death, not during your life. So அப்ப என்ன பண்றான்னா, after death ஒன்னு புரிய வைக்கிறான் உனக்கு. புரிஞ்சுட்டு here you are being made as a slave. The role of state ethics now is taken by the religion. Religion displaces reason. And church takes the authority of state. Church takes the authority of state. State oda power church eduthuku. So we call this thing as supremacy of papacy. Supremacy of papacy. Papacy is what? Popes, the papals. What they decree is law. So they talk about something called natural law, which is equal to divine law. God has given this divine law. Nobody can violate this, not even the king, the natural. Therefore, the king is brought under the church. That's why we call it supremacy of papacy. The church is going to, right, so talk about the coronation of kings. இல்லைன்னா ஒரு கிங்கே கிடையாது. அந்த மாதிரி the church has the power. It has power over the people. It can levy independent, right, so taxes. அந்த மாதிரி it is gaining power. இதோட assured future என்ன அப்படின்னா, இதுக்கு ஒரு social structure support பண்ணணும். என்ன social structure? Decadent social structure. That is but feudalism. Feudalism was a part of this medieval thought. Okay, right? Society was not equal. It is organized along pope, right? So the king, the feudal lords, then the commoners. The commoners were the suffering lot. இதுக்கான thinkers வராங்க. ஏன்னா church fathers, Saint Thomas Aquinas, Saint Augustine, and others. இவங்கெல்லாம் medieval thinkers. இதே மாதிரி இஸ்லாம்ல இருக்கிறாங்க. Where the caliphate system was right established. இங்க Vatican became the political as well as religious head. Say state religion சம்பந்தம் கிடையாது. ஆனா Vatican is called Roman Empire. Roman Empire is a Christian empire where Pope was the supreme head of both the state political affairs as well as the religious affairs. Nobody can disobey the Pope. அதனாலதான் Vatican இன்னைக்கும் பவர்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கு. It's a symbol, right? Though it has declined in power, but still it's symbol of power. Caliphate. Similarly, on the Islamic front, caliphate. He is the socio-religious, political as well as the other head. State lang கிடையாது. So நம்ம பார்ப்போம். Even during the Mughal times, Babar first கொஞ்ச நாள் caliphate-க்கு கொஞ்சம், so he will prove his right, so allegiance to caliphate. அதுக்கப்புறம் they declared, right, so their independence from caliphate. நாங்க caliphate-ல ஒரு இது கிடையாது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிடுவாங்க. அதுக்கப்புறம் Mughal rulers, they ruled independent of the caliphate. India was not part of the caliphate. Okay, right? அப்ப caliphate-ங்கிறது இஸ்லாமிக் வேர்ல்டுக்கு, ரோமன் எம்பையர்ங்கிறது கிறிஸ்டியன் வேர்ல்டு. ஸோ நவ் இப்போ கிறிஸ்டியன் வேர்ல்டு இந்த திங்கர்ஸ் இவங்க தானே சொல்லியிருப்பாங்க, அக்யூனாஸ் அண்ட் அகஸ்டின். இங்க வந்து they talk about two things, right? ஒரு கான்செப்ட் வரும், two cities. The concept of two cities. What is the concept of two cities? So nothing but the earthly city and the city of God. This world, that world. This world. இது இங்க இருக்க temporal world. Human world ruled by king, monarch. Okay, right? Other is that world, spiritual or sacred, which is city of God. City of God. அப்ப நம்ம whatever the church says, you have to obey. Whatever the social condition is, you have to accept. Acceptance is the only thing the religion teaches. The religion என்ன பண்ணும்னா நமக்கு guilt உண்டு பண்ணும். அப்பதான் என்ன பண்ண முடியும்? You can be kept as a slave of the religion. Whatever you are doing is wrong னு சொல்லிடும். இப்ப சோறு திங்கிறது தப்பு அப்படி சொல்லிடுச்சு வச்சுப்போம். இந்த தப்பு யாரா பண்ணாம இருப்பீங்களா? சோறு திங்கும் போதெல்லாம் என்ன ஆகும்னா something is wrong, we are doing something wrong. அப்படி கண்டுபிடிச்சதுதான் செக்ஸ். ஓகே, செக்ஸ் இஸ் a taboo, it is a sin, right? The first sin, Adam and Eve, Christianity சொல்லுது. ஓகே, என்ன இது? அப்போ whoever commits that sin is a sinner and they carry the guilt. Only God can, right, wash away their sins. அதுக்காக தான் ஜீசஸ் வந்தார், he was crucified, now they believe a new messiah will come. ஸோ அப்போ எப்பயுமே வாழ்க்கையில் என்ன பண்ணுவாங்களே, கில்ட்டோட வாழ வைக்கும். போய் சொன்னா என்ன தப்பு, ஹிந்துயிசமும் சொல்லுது, ரைட்? ஸோ lie is harmful, even Islam says so, haram. So all the religion create a sense of guilt. But now you are a guiltful person, you don't deserve this world. என்ன பண்ணலாம், you devote your life to this God or religion so that in your afterlife you will be sitting one to one with Jesus. Okay, wherever உட்கார்ந்திருப்பா அங்க ஜாலியா நம்ம உட்கார்ந்து, sir, yes, that's afterlife. So that's the message they give. இப்போ கைலாசம் போறோம், கைலாசத்துல யார் இருக்கா? Hindu belief. Who is in Kailasa? You will sitting in between Parvati and Shiva, in between, not right so near. Okay, right? In Vaigunda, the பாவம் பார்த்து நீங்களும் பார்த்து கிடப்பீங்க. So in Vaigunda. So அப்போ யோசிச்சு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா this belief was being carefully, right, so seeded. எதுக்கு? To bring down our reason and the belief. இங்க யோசிச்சு பாருங்க, what will be the political thought? What will be the development here? First of all, a decadent society. So as I said earlier, right? So இங்க ஏதாவது thing which doesn't go well with the religion is a heresy. It's a taboo. அது நீங்க தப்பா பேசுறீங்கன்னு அர்த்தம். You are talking against the church. So like I said, right? Galileo. What Galileo said? World is a sphere. Church என்ன சொல்லிச்சு? Flat ன்னு சொல்லிச்சு. For which he has stoned. Okay, right? அது வீட்டுல Hindu religion பரவாயில்ல. It believed that earth was a பூகோளம். Sphere அப்பயே சொல்லிடுச்சு. Right? Heliocentric theory. Copernicus theory. ஏன் தெரியாதா நமக்கு? Right? நவகிரகால சூரியன் was the, right, so God, and all the, right, so planets come around. இது இங்க இருந்துச்சு, ஆனா அங்க there's a theory called heliocentric. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி என்ன இருந்துச்சு? Geocentric theory. Earth was the center of the universe. The scientific inquiries வர வர the things change, which questioned the already existing belief. இப்ப சண்டை வருது இங்க போது. The later medieval came, the later medieval, where கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சமா, right, the decline of church. Okay, right? Came the decline of church. If a church would have decline, so church in the sense the supremacy of papacy is giving way to, what is giving way? It is giving way to upper hand for monarchy or upper hand for kings. இது வரைக்கும் kings were dependent on the church for their position. Now the kings strengthen their position. Yeah, slowly people got disheartened. இப்போ கிறிஸ்டியானிட்டிலே பார்த்தோம்னா, you know, the early modern வரும், the later medieval, early modern ஒரு இதுல ஒரு transition வரும். You know, Garibaldi, Mazzini. So Renaissance, father of Renaissance in Italy. இட்டாலி தானே அங்க ரோமன் வேட்டிகன் சர்ச் இருக்கு, ரோம். ஓகே, இப்ப இட்டாலியில ஒரு மூவ்மெண்ட் வரும், the Protestant movement. They protest against the established notions of Christianity. சர்ச்சுக்கு அகைன்ஸ்டா கேள்வி கேட்பாங்க. So whether church was an essential institution in the communication between man and God. கோயிலுக்கு போனாதான் சாமி கும்பிட முடியுமா, இல்லைன்னா உங்க வீட்டிலே சாமி கும்பிடலாமா? அதனால வீட்டுல சாமி படம் வந்துச்சு, புரியுதா? Right? So this is how the images of God came into our house. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி where God resides? Only in temple. Where is God? Only in church. அப்ப சர்ச்னா who controls the church? Pope. Without the Pope you cannot reach the God. Therefore you are a permanent living a life of hell. You are a sinner. You cannot be forgiven, right? So you don't have divine guidance. The Pope is an indispensable connection between man and God. That's a Protestant ethics games. The Protestant என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, there is no need for the Pope, so we can directly communicate with God. எப்படி? But devotion, என்ன devotion? Work is worship. அப்படியே Hinduism வாங்க, the medieval period. Okay, right? Kabir, Chaitanya, right? Ram, Surdas, okay, right? Meera. இவங்களுடைய பக்தி என்ன? Because பக்தி movement. பக்தி movement என்ன? Directly surrendering to God. It is about devotion. It is not about Vedas. It's not about scriptures. It is about direct communication with God, oneness with God. Okay. In the Madri, medieval period, there are certain changes later happening. And that has led to the third stage, early modern. Early modern. So this early modern was characterized by one, Renaissance. As I say, what is Renaissance? A revival of reason. A revival of reason. There is nothing but revival of classics. Revival of classics. First ஆரம்பிச்சு வைக்கிறது வந்து இவங்க நம்ம மசினியன் கரிபால்டி. அதுக்கப்புறம் கால்வின் மூவ்மெண்ட், ஜான் கால்வின். இட் ஹேப்பன்ஸ். அது இங்கிலாந்துல இட் பிகேம் சோ பாப்புலர் தட் ரைட் சோ ஒன்லி த கிங்ஸ் ஈவன் த ரூலர்ஸ் கேன் கம் ஒன்லி ஃப்ரம் ப்ராட்டஸ்டன்ட். ப்ராட்டஸ்டன்ட் இட்டாலியில முதல் ஆரம்பிக்கும். மார்ட்டின் லூத்தர். பட் இவங்க எல்லாம் பிரெடெசர்ஸ் வந்து just started from Italia. Okay, right? அங்கதான் Renaissance movement ஆரம்பிக்குது. Renaissance is belief in people, humanism. அது revival of classics. Revival of classics போது யோசிச்சு பாத்தீங்கன்னா அதுக்கு முன்னாடி எல்லாமே நீங்க இந்த ஆர்ட் அண்ட் கல்ச்சர் டெவலப்மெண்ட் கிடையாது. ஏன்? இட்ஸ் அகைன்ஸ்ட் காட். இமேஜ் வர்ஷிப்பே இருக்கக்கூடாது. இட்ஸ் அகைன்ஸ்ட் கிறிஸ்டியானிட்டி as well as இஸ்லாம். இப்ப என்ன பண்றாங்க, ரைட்? ஸோ ஹியூமன் ஃபார்ம்ஸ், ஆர்ட் ஃபார்ம், மைக்கேல் ஆங்கிலோ, ஸோ டிராயிங்ஸ், ஸோ திஸ் லியோனார்டோ டாவின்சி எல்லாம் எதை பத்தி வரைகிறாங்க? ஹியூமன் ஃபார்ம்ஸ். தெர் இஸ் நோ காட் தேர். ஓகே, ரைட்? தேர்ஃபோர் ரிவைவல் ஆஃப் கிளாசிக். இது ரினைசன்ஸ். இந்த ரினைசன்ஸ் வரும்போது we try to question the established ethics. என்ன பண்றோம்? There came a period called enlightenment. What is enlightenment? They're enlightened. So we don't believe any after. So we are going to ask questions. So we go to the thing, we are enlightened, we ask that. Seeing is believing. இப்போ நான் ஒரு எக்ஸாம்பிள் சொல்றேன். Sun sets in the west. Right? Does sun really set in the west? We are made to believe that sun set in the west and rise in the east. Is it so? What do you say? It never sets or rises. It is cast due to the rotation of the earth. Sun never sets. The earth's rotation causes day and night. Is the enlightenment. So they questioned the established traditions. So on the early model வந்து அதுக்கப்புறம் என்ன ஆகுது? இது பேஸ் போட்டது. இங்க இருந்து வரப்போறதா கேட்டேன். Do you really need a church? இப்ப கேள்வியே, do you really need the church? So there came the later modern. So first, secular thought. Separation of religion from politics. இதை ரெப்ரசன்ட் பண்றவர் தான் Machiavelli. So the person who is represent is Machiavelli. Okay, right? இதுதான் transition period. But முன்னாடி என்ன? Plato and Aristotle represented the ancient thought. Augustine, Aquinas represented the medieval thought. ஆனா நமக்கு syllabus we don't have a medieval thought. But for comparison, you should know that. Okay, right? And modern thought starts from Machiavelli. So அதுல contemporary thinking னா ஹன்னா அரெண்ட் மட்டும்தான். மற்ற எல்லாமே மாடர்ன் திங்கர்ஸ். நீங்க புக் எடுத்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா வெஸ்டர்ன் பொலிட்டிக்கல் தாட் பிளேட்டோ டு மார்க்ஸ் அப்படின்னு தான் இருக்கும். கிராம்சியா நிறைய இருக்காது. ஸோ கிராம்சி ஸ்ட்ரக்சரல் மார்க்சிஸ்ட் 1930s தான் அதுக்கப்புறம் எழுதியிருப்பார். ஸோ இப்போ லெட்டர் எடிஷன்ஸ்ல வி ஹேவ் ஆல் த திங்ஸ். ஓகே, ரைட்? அப்போ செக்குலர் தாட். ஒன்னு செக்குலரிசம். வாட் இஸ் செக்குலரிசம்? செப்பரேஷன் ஆஃப் சர்ச் ஃப்ரம் த ஸ்டேட் அண்ட் செப்பரேஷன் ஆஃப் ரிலிஜியன் ஃப்ரம் பாலிடிக்ஸ். இதுல கொஞ்சம் எக்ஸ்ட்ரீமா போயிடுவார் அவர். போய் separation of ethics from politics. This is Machiavelli. But not all the thinkers are so. Now, the contract theory. Social contract. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி state is a natural institution. We have seen in the introduction class. There are two schools of thought. The organic theory of thought as well as the mechanical. Organic state is a natural institution. Mechanical state is a artificial institution. Okay. Now, the contractual theory. Inga, there is not natural. The ancient political thought believed that state was natural. The medieval thought believed that state was a creation of God. divine theory. Okay, right? But the modern thought thinks state was artificial. The state as a product of contract. Social contract. இங்க வர thinkers தான். It is Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau, the contractualists, the social contractualists. So, the contract அடுத்தபடியா வர்றதுதான் the liberal thought or the concept of rights. We call it natural rights and so. அது வரைக்கும் ரைட்ஸே கிடையாது. So it's about the duty, unlimited political obligation of the citizen towards the state. You are obligated towards the state. Anciently அப்படிதான், medieval அப்படிதான். இப்ப we say that we have rights. Yeah, liberal. Because state is artificial. As a creator of state, we are bigger than the creation. So therefore, rights precede the state or man precedes the state. Liberal. The liberal notion of thought. Yeah, in the condition varanam. Again, explain, right? Industrial revolution. The reasons for the liberal thought. இதுக்கெல்லாம் காரணம் என்ன அப்படின்னா, for the contractual theory, everything is, right? Industrial and scientific revolution. Industrial as well as scientific revolution. You know what is industrial revolution? So mechanized production, the invention of steam power, so what engine. So we are going for large scale industrialization. When you go for industrialization, what will happen? You need manpower to work in the industries. Where the manpower is? Working in the field, right? Under the feudal laws. So they are being controlled by the church. Now, you want them to come to your factory. All are born equal. Liberty, right? Discard the old thought. Discard the church. Discard the feudal modes of living. Come to the new ways of living. Pudu entrepreneurial class is emerging. We call them as rights of mercantiles or the traders or Pudu trading class. Then the industrial towns develop. So port towns, the industrial towns, we are developing. We need ideas, political ideas. So came the idea of liberty or the rights. So the modern thought evolved. Further, modern thought say liberty, rights, industries develop. Not all are equally equipped. The first to adopt that will be the benefactors. IT revolution வந்துச்சு. Who was benefited by IT revolution? The 90s 2010 வரைக்கும் engineers தான் benefited by the first IT revolution. இப்போ engineering college மூடிட்டாங்க. கிட்டத்தட்ட 400 காலேஜ்ல சீட்டே ஃபில் ஆகலையா. ஸோ இன்னைக்கு கவுன்சிலிங் நடந்துட்டு இருக்கு. இன்ஜினியரிங்க்கு வந்து டிமாண்டே இல்லை. காரணம் ஏன்? இன்ஜினியரிங் படிச்சா UPSC தான் படிக்க வரணும், வேலை கிடைக்காது. You should come to civil service preparation, not for others. Okay, right? Now you see that, right? Say அப்ப இங்க டிமாண்ட் முடிஞ்சு போச்சு. அந்த மாதிரி ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இண்டஸ்ட்ரியல் ரெவல்யூஷன் போனவெல்லாம் முன்னாடி வந்துட்டான். They become bourgeois, they become capitalist. இப்ப ரெண்டாவது ஒரு ஜெனரேஷன் வரும்போது பார்த்தா they become workers. A capitalist and a worker is not equal. Employer வேற, employee வேற. That brings a change in the socio-economic status, giving rise to a new idea called socialism. Socialism is an antithesis to liberal idea. So the society is divided into workers and capitalists. Okay, right? After Marx. So came the idea of Karl Marx. Then the continuation the Gramsci, Antonio Gramsci. So their thought is a criticism of the liberal thought or capitalism. இப்ப capitalism வந்து inhuman சொல்றான், because economic inequality இருக்கு. But without liberty can there be democracy? No. அப்போ ஒரு welfare state வரலாம் போது another idea comes, positive liberalism, represented by J.S. Mill, rectifying the flaws of liberalism. So given by J.S. Mill. Okay, right? But there was another dangerous ideology which came in the 20th century. So that's fascism, which is not an ideology. Actually, it's a pathology. So it is an antithesis for both liberalism as well as socialism. It's a dangerous ideology. Okay. We need humanism. So capitalism has to be humanistic, socialism has to be humanistic. And the thought of Hannah Arendt. Represented by Hannah Arendt. So civic republicanism was an ideological school which represented by Hannah Arendt. Okay, right? She was a German, later settled in US. So she was a Jewish philosopher. Okay, right? Ipo, in the political thought, this is how it developed. Now, India developed. So let us talk about Indian context. Changing socio-economic conditions which happened on their own. European history, the history happened itself. There was no external influence. It is completely European history. England, English people. France, French people. Okay, right? Even America is a land of Americans who came from outside. And India, everybody. What is original India? Are we Hindus? Hinduism pere British named us as right, Hindus. Okay, right? Maybe Vedic religion, maybe. Maybe we are Sanatanis, we don't know. Okay. Anna, Jainism was there. Once upon a time, the entire Deccan was Jainist in belief. Buddhism ruled all over India. Right? So Ashoka has right, so spread Buddhism to the nook and corner of India. Even it went to Southeast Asia. Okay, right? If India in the land religious assault. The internal things were happening, but India was not left alone. So what happened? Alexander's invasion, the Macedonian influence. Then came the Islamic invasion, right? The Persian and Arab influence. Then came the European invasion. What happened? The European. In the concept of the European history was natural, so it developed on its own. So in the context of Indian history, that's the problem with India. Huh? Geographical unity is there. Unity in diversity. First of all, we are diverse, but there is no unity. There was no concept called India. It was a modern concept created by the Britishers. Okay, right? And Indian nationalism was a byproduct of colonialism. We never had the concept of India. And concept of state is different, right? So that's why I'm saying, right? So we have to understand in the correct context. But ancient India, Europe period. So why? Because we had our own historical setup and contextual setup. So we said it is Arthashastra, Dharma Shastra, and Buddhism. Buddhism was a counter philosophy to Dharma Shastra. So it was a critic of Dharma Shastra, Hindu philosophy. But inbuilt criticism was there. It was there in India. Medieval period. What was medieval India? Can you hate Islamic India? History writers has made a great, right? So, or great fault that describing ancient India as a Hindu India and medieval India as a Muslim India. India was neither Hindu nor Muslim. So that's truth. Okay. You say the Mughal emperors, the rulers may be Islamists, but not the people. So India never followed the Sharia. Okay, right? Therefore, our society was a-religious. It followed its own religion. It was prone to diversity. But the medieval period, it was prone to wars in political supremacy. 1191, the first battle of Tarain. And first the Islamic rule in India. The war between Prithviraj Chauhan and Muhammad Ghori. Okay, the Ghori dynasty came. Slave dynasty came. So they were the rulers. And in due course, they become part and parcel of India. They were no sense foreigners. They were part and parcel of India. They become Indian rulers. Ingena political brothers. Yes. So Abul Fazal thought. So inge konjam milder Islamic version of state. But they cannot apply it in India. In India, jizya was imposed on Indians by some Islam, not all the Islamic rulers. Some Islamic rulers. Yeah, it is a tax imposed on non-believers or kafirs. Non-believers are known by the name kafirs. Okay. But kafirs மேல போடுறனால they need not follow Islamic law. They are being left to follow their own laws. Whether the Islamic rulers are applied varna, it is odd. They can't apply. Sharia apply பண்ணலாம், they cannot apply varna. So medieval thought, it was so sporadic. There was no particular thought. In a version of state, the kingdoms was supposed to change. So, or lineage of rulers, outsiders came, they become insiders, and there is an inside dynasty which was replaced by other dynasty. Ipo came the Europeans. So, first the Britishers, then the French, Dutch, Portuguese, and these people came. An European concept of politics and idea was introduced in India. For example, rule of law. So, there's an European concept, Article 14, right? Rule of law is not all an Indian concept. India is a concept. Dharma. Rule of Dharma. And Dharma represents, right, Sanadana. Sanadana represents cosmic conscience. This is a philosophy. Okay. For some people, Sanadana means Hindus. For some people, Sanadana means, right, so it's dharmic equality, a cosmic conscience. One with this, right? Everyone has to perform their universal duty. For a singathora velaiya pananum. Or man, deer, has to perform the duty of a deer. Or a son has to perform the duty of a son. A daughter has to perform. There's an individual dharma which culminates into societal dharma, and that goes into this universal dharma. So, this is a different concept. Inga, it's about the obligation, not about rights. It's about duties. Okay. In the society, totally uprooted. What is it? Rule of law. The European concept of state was introduced in India. So therefore, India ancient thought, it corresponds to the Hindu, secular, and Buddhist thought. And medieval, though we don't have a right or organized thought, we can say so sporadic Islamic thought. But the modern thought in India is different because we have been introduced a new form of politics, a new form of state. Modern thought was a product of colonialism. It is a consequence of colonialism. Okay, right? It never happened, evolved. It happened, right, as a consequence to colonialism. What is the consequence? For colonialism, there is an antithesis which came in India. It is called nationalism. It is opposite to colonialism. We have nationalism. But what was a modern Indian thought? Nationalist thought. Modern Indian thought corresponds to the nationalist thought. Okay, nationalism. In the nationalism, say, first we have Syed Ahmad Khan. We call it as communal nationalism. Communal nationalism, yes. Sporadic Islamic thought. Okay. So, inga forced conversion nadakala. Medieval India, there was no forced conversion. But religious bigotry irundhuchu, but no conversion was there. Okay. So, believe from history. From the records of history available here. Communal nationalism. Yeah, the communal nationalism solringa. Why can't you use other names? Say, the idea of nationalism itself was a modern concept, which was an European concept, where the concept of state was giving birth to modern nation state. The brief, I will tell you in Machiavelli. Where Machiavelli, I'll briefly tell how the modern nation state has come into being. But if as of now, you know that the idea of modern nation state. ஒரு விஷயம் என்னன்னா, we identify with the nation state. Nationalism. இது என்னோட nation. Therefore, it is nationalist அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம். இப்போ நேஷனை எப்படி ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்றாங்கன்னா, through their religion. Since I am a Muslim, right? So, I am a Muslim Indian. I am a Muslim Indian. இதுதான் communal nationalism. Since I am a Hindu, Hindu Indian. Okay, Hindu nationalism, Muslim nationalism அப்படின்னு சொல்லி ரிலீஜியன் மூலமா பார்த்துக்கிறது. So, Syed Ahmad Khan represents the communal nationalism. Then we have the Aurobindo. Hindu nationalism அப்படின்னா அதை மட்டும் நம்ம சொல்ல மாட்டோம். So we don't call him as a Hindu nationalist. We call him as a cultural nationalist. That's why I said you should have an idea of modern India before coming to the Indian political thought. So by the time I think the Indian political thought வரும்போது, even for our PCM students, we will be exposed to modern political thought, and for others. So I think you should have known. And Augustல எல்லா அகாடமிலையும் modern India ஆரம்பிச்சிருவாங்க. So cultural nationalism. So why cultural nationalism? India as a nation, as you said, is culturally unified. Homogeneity in culture. Maybe different in religion, but homogeneous in culture. That's what cultural nationalism is. Okay, right? இதோட extreme version தான் Hindutva. கொஞ்சம் இது moderate version. Extreme undiluted version is Hindutva. Yes, cultural unification, and that culture is nothing but Hindu culture. அப்படி சொல்றது தான் Hindutva. Okay, right? Then we have Gandhi. காந்தி வந்து கம்யூனலும் கிடையாது, கல்ச்சரலும் கிடையாது. இன்னும் சொல்ல போனா இஸ் அகைன்ஸ்ட் த கான்செப்ட் ஆஃப் ஸ்டேட். காந்தி வாஸ் அன் அனார்சிஸ்ட். ஓகே, ரைட்? பட் நம்ம என்ன கொண்டு வர போறோம் காந்தி அப்படின்னா, spiritual, not religious. Spirituality is different from religion. Okay, right? Spiritual nationalism as well as anarchism. Okay, right? Then after Gandhi, say M.K. Gandhi was a spiritual. இப்போ இதுக்கு ஆப்போசிட்டா இவங்க மட்டும் தான் இந்தியாவில் இருக்கிறாங்களா? எல்லாமே எடுத்து பாருங்க. டு சேஃப்கார்ட் த இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் ஆஃப் த முஸ்லீம், தேர் இஸ் சையத் அஹ்மத் கான். ஒரு கல்ச்சர் நேஷனலிஸ்ட் அரபிந்தோ இருக்காரு. ஒரு ஹோலிஸ்டிக்கா எல்லாத்துக்கும் சேர்த்து காந்தி இருக்காரு. பட் தேர் இஸ் அ டிஃபரன்ஸ் லாட். தலித் பெர்ஸ்பெக்டிவ்னு இருக்கு, ரைட்? ஹூ இஸ் கோயிங் டு சேவியர் ஆஃப் தலித்ஸ்? ஸோ இட் இஸ் அம்பேத்கர். தலித் நேஷனலிசம். Okay, right? And then Indiana, Muslims, land of Muslims, land of Hindus, land for all, land for Dalits. Okay, எல்லாருமே ஒரு அடையாளத்தோட தான் இந்தியாவை பார்க்குறான். ஸோ அப்போ இந்தியாவுக்குன்னு தனி அடையாளம் என்ன? எவ்ரி ஒன் ட்ரை டு சி இந்தியா இன் தேர் ஓன் communal viewpoint or casteist viewpoint. Okay, right? Are we, right? So Indians, right? So are we, right? So a particular caste, a particular religion. What do we say? Indians. Okay. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி first of all we are all humans. அதுதான் எம்என் ராய். That's the greatest thing. The most underrated thinker in India. Radical humanism. Say, Indian political thought is nothing but a product of European thought. Okay, right? So, for European thought, European colonialism. This is how the thought came. When the thought மூலமா, what happened in India? Yes, we are coming towards the concept of modern nation state. இப்போ கூட சொல்றோம், India developed state, developing state. யாரோட கம்பேர் பண்றீங்க? Western notion of state. Okay, right? You heard about the Indian notion of state? அப்படின்னா என்ன? தெரியாது. Because we have never been India. There was no concept called India. Now come to the Western concept. Okay, Western concept. So the state evolves, the thought evolves. இன்னைக்கு வந்து we are living in the age of globalization, a world without borders. Okay, ஆனாலும் still Trump says he has an agenda, MIGA, making America great again. So going back to the state, still state is very important. Nationalism, say ASEAN. So the most successful organization in Asia, but Cambodia and Thailand are fighting. So they're supposed to be, right, Asian community. That Asian community is fighting with each other. Okay, right? Say, rendume culturally, religiously, they are similar. Both Hinduism as well as Buddhism is there, but still they fight over. So now I say the concept of state. Evolution, there are many things which needs to be understood. And the political thought serves as a base for understanding such things. The ancient and the modern political thought of Western political thought is understand the context that it enlightens us about the concepts which are involved in political theory. Okay, right? But political theory, particularly based there, the Western political thought, and it has to be interlinked. Writing, answer writing, you have to add criticisms. We have to bring our opinions up. In support of our answers, we have to bring the thinkers who are authoritative commentators of their own domain. Okay, adukku, we have to know the thinkers. We're not going in detail, but we have seen the futures, ancient, medieval, and modern. So, what, right? So, it comes to your mind when you think about ancient India. Now, rough picture. What comes to your mind? Ancient India, mind. Any symbol, imagine any figure, what comes to your mind? Women doing yajnas. It was a conservative religious society in the picture. Okay. Is India really a conservative society? Conservatism எப்போ வந்திருக்கும்? Yeah. Women ஏன் கன்சர்வ் பண்ணணும்? When there is external threat, அப்ப விமனை பாதுகாக்கணும். அப்ப விமனோட பொசிஷன் கம்மியா போகுது, பொசிஷன் வருது அப்படின்னா there is some, it has to be understood in a particular context. அதனால என்ன பண்ணாங்க, சோசியல் ரிலிஜியஸ் ரிஃபார்ம் மூவ்மெண்ட் வந்துச்சு. அந்த காலத்துல இந்துயிசம் அப்படி இருந்துச்சு. தேவை ஏன்னா it was external threat. Now there is rule of law, everyone is safe. இந்த டைம்ல என்ன பண்ணணும்? They should be given back the original position. How? By reforming the society. அப்ப political thought தெரிஞ்சனாலதான் we are doing this. Okay. Then we call about justice. Let us talk about justice. What is justice? Giving everyone their due share. நம்ம பாப்போம் ஒரு டீடைல்ல. Okay. அப்ப justice வேணும்னா சொசைட்டில வெல்ஃபேர் கொடுக்கணும் எல்லாத்துக்குமே. Why should we give welfare? Because certain section of people were depressed and oppressed for a very long time. We should give them, right? So what is due to them? We should, right? So undo their past wrongs. So we should not justify the present things. We have to do some special favors. Understanding the past situations. Okay, so the political thought has contributed to the development of political theory by giving a clarity, by giving a philosophical leaning, and also by explaining the concepts. If a justice, raw theory of justice, a dimension of justice you should know. But we should start from Plato. For Plato, justice is ethics and morals. Whereas for the modern state, justice is legal. ஆனா லீகலா பார்த்தோம்னா ப்ரொசீஜர் தான் இருக்கும், சப்ஸ்டன்ஸ் இருக்காது. அப்ப சப்ஸ்டன்ஸ் வேணும்னா ஜஸ்டிஸ் ஷுட் பி ethical and moral. Where you learn that? From the past political thought. So this is how the political thought is going to be useful in understanding political theory. And the first session I introduced what the political thought is, the scope of political thought, the futures, and as well as the evolution. Tomorrow I'll start with Plato. I'll set a stage what the political thought is going to be. இப்ப நீங்க கேட்கலாம், yes sir, Greek thought மட்டும் வச்சாங்க ancient thoughtல. You talked about, right? So Roman, Chinese. Why the Greek? So yes, for special reasons. In a special reasons. எல்லாருமே it was categorically recorded. We say before Christ. அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம். எதை வச்சு சொல்றோம்? When was Arthashastra written? Do you have any record? Arthashastra was discovered, right? So only in the 18th century. அவ்வளவு பெரிய கிரேட் ஒர்க்கை என்ன பண்ணிட்டாங்கன்னா ஒளிச்சு வச்சுட்டாங்க. It was being in the palm leaf manner. அதுக்கப்புறம் மேனுஸ்கிரிப்ட் எடுத்து they print பண்றாங்க. யாரு பண்ணது? The Britishers done it. Otherwise it would not have come to light. For example, ஒரு பெரிய ஒரு right, so ஒரு ironic, Kautilya, Arthashastra lived before Christ, and Machiavelli was a modern thinker. But நம்ம கௌட்டில்யா சொல்லும்போது Kautilya was addressed as Indian Machiavelli. So actually Machiavelli should be addressed as Italian Kautilya, right? Because Kautilya proceeds in time. But the irony is that, right, so he's called Indian Machiavelli. Yeah, The works was later discovered. British வந்தப்போ தான் discovered. We never had a sense of history. We never record things. எதையுமே ஒளிச்சு வச்சு. We never give it to things. People record பண்ண மாட்டோம். ஆனா Greeks, what they did? They recorded things, categorical records, and give it to the people. Or a methodology and dialectics. So they will have an open, right? So oration. And the oration, they will tell, this is my theory. Socrates, will come with philosophy. They will record by the historians. So it is available from the history, whereas ours is not. It is not properly recorded. And moreover, you do not have the sense of chronology. Dharma Shastra, yes, it belongs to the old thing. But Dharma Shastra was compiled until 12th century AD. AD, I'm talking. For 1,000 years, there are maybe thousands of manus will be there. We do not know the original version of Dharma Shastra. We only have an essence of Dharma Shastra. That is it. Okay, right? Therefore, the Greeks, right? So superiority lies in their rational thought as well as the sense of recording and the sense of history. That is why we start with the Greek political thought. Understand? Okay, right? So tomorrow we'll start with Plato. So Romans are there, but after the invasion, so the history has been lost. The Alexander Library has been burnt. So all the things have been gone. So during the Crusades, that is a problem. Okay, right? Chinese, same like Indians. So Chinese traditional medicines, traditional practice, they keep themselves. They do not give to others. That is a problem with the Eastern societies. So that is okay, right? So tomorrow we'll start with Plato, a prelude to the Greek political thought, where we start with various schools of thought. Then we'll go to Plato. Okay, right? Yes. So far, I've given a fair idea about what the political thought is all about. Did you get it? Yes. Online?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay. Thank you. So see you tomorrow.
Sir.
Thank you. Yes. Tell me.
Sir, one small doubt regarding the state topic which we discussed, sir.
Yes.
Sir, when we were discussing that, you mentioned that when we refer to state, we come across the Greeks. But at the same time, we also talk about Arthashastra, which is translated into statecraft. When there is a preceding text like Arthashastra, why do we refer to Greeks in the ascending order, sir, like the chronological order?
So that's why I said Arthashastra was found only in the 18th century at the coming of British. So this work lied, so buried under the ruins. It's a British who discovered that this is a great treatise. So அதுக்கப்புறம் வெளியே வருது. அதனால so the Greeks already has come to it. 15th century Greek political thought was published. So that's the thing. Okay.
Okay, sir.
That's the reason. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So see you tomorrow. Same time. So tomorrow the class will be 2 hours. So the introduction nala given is okay. Right. Thank you. Yes. Hello. For studying.